Facebook. So we're talking thumbnails today, and sometimes people ask me, what the heck is a thumbnail? So today we're going to talk about not only how to create them, but like what a thumbnail is, and also why they matter. Sometimes when we're uploading videos, not only to like YouTube, but also to Facebook, it gives us the option to upload a thumbnail. And if you don't know what that is, you're probably just like skipping over that and you're using the default, whatever Facebook or YouTube gives you, which is fine. But you do have more options, and you don't have to be a graphic designer to create a really awesome thumbnail. So there's a whopping one person watching this right now. So hi, Megan. But that being said, we're going to do it anyway because I'm hoping that people jump in while the live video is happening. And also, maybe you're watching it later. And if you are watching it later, still comment below. Still let us know who you are, like what your business is, what you're looking to gain from taking, these like courses online essentially. And then ask me questions too, because I'm constantly monitoring our social media. And if you drop a question in the comments, I will answer it. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys, and we can talk a little bit more about YouTube thumbnails. Woo! All right, so that's trippy. All right, so here we go. This is what YouTube looks like, right? So what a thumbnail are these images on this search page, right? These are what thumbnails are. This picture doesn't show up anywhere in that video. This was separately uploaded for this particular video that got uploaded onto this site. So there's a real random group of stuff on here, but I wanted to show you just some of the people that we subscribe to and what different thumbnails look like across different social media platforms. So anyway, this is somebody we follow. You can see that if I go to their videos, all of these thumbnails here are created, right? So these are things that I'm going to teach you how to create in Canva. The important thing about thumbnails is that you want them to be eye-catching. It's the most important benefit of using a thumbnail is it grabs somebody's attention right away. If we go to mid-continent, we can see that while somebody like this content creator, influencer, social media mogul, they're using Canva or another digital design platform to create their thumbnails. There is also the option to choose a thumbnail that YouTube will select for you, and I can show you that process as well. But you can still see that we're choosing stuff that looks really engaging, right? We can see that there's people in these, and we want to make sure that when somebody's searching through stuff like this, they see something worth clicking on. That's the whole point of using a thumbnail. So just to kind of go through our list here, we've got our Lazy Dog Farm. They look like they're taking like screenshots from their video and then placing text on top of it. Another really great option for you. Casey Pet Project is really similar in the fact that they use thumbnails that are generated for them. We can look at their videos as well. We can see something like this may actually be created, something like this might be created, but for the most part these are stills that happen within their video, and I will again go through the process of that. But right now I want to jump back into Canva and show you how you would create something that looks like this, something that when someone is searching for a how-to video on YouTube or whatever they may be searching out, if they see your video, they don't scroll past it. They see something really eye-grabbing, really attention-grabbing, and it makes them want to click on it. So I'm going to jump into Canva and we will go ahead and get started. So you guys know that when I jump into Canva, my very first thing I want to do is use that search bar up at the top, and I'm going to type in YouTube thumbnail. So the first suggestion right there is what we're going to use. Of course, you can click any of these, but you know me, I like to start with a blank. If you get into the scrolling, go for it. I love it. I eat a lot of time going down that rabbit hole, but I like starting with a blank thumbnail. And you'll see like this looks just like these look, right? You want to make sure that we've got the right dimensions. The dimensions are everything, which is why using that search function up at the top, instead of just creating a design and trying to fit something in there, we need to make sure we're using the correct dimensions or something's going to get cut off. We don't want things to get cut off, because if a word gets cut off, nobody's going to click on that because they don't know what the video is about. If a face gets cut off, it just looks weird, right? So we want to make sure that we're using the correct dimensions. So back to our first design. I want to, let's say that my boss Amy, Amy, if you're watching, comment, because I'm using you in an example. But my boss Amy, we've taken some pictures of her in some like Regency romance costumes, and I'm going to use her as an example so we can make something like these cutouts, right? So I'm going to jump back in here. The first thing I'm going to do is go into my uploads, and one of my most recent uploads is Lady Amy with her fan. I can tell you a funny story about the day that we shot this. I think she broke this fan about 3 minutes after this picture was taken, and she was very upset about it. So you've got this picture here. What you're going to do is go into your effects. This is how you're going to remove that background. There's that background remover. Again, this is a pro feature. So if you don't have the pro version of Canva, then you're not going to be able to remove that background. However, there are so many options for you out there on the internet that if you just Google remove background from picture, you're going to get so many different results, and it's going to do the exact same thing. This is just convenient for me because it's already in the application. So all right, I'm gonna move something over here real quick. Hi, Amy. Okay, so I've got Amy without that background now. So if we come back over here and we look at some of the backgrounds that they're using, right? They're still very eye-catching. Let's go into, Startup Hustles, very text-based. So this is maybe a little different. We can go into something like this a little later on. But again, we want to make sure that we have an eye-catching background. And because we're working with, this is going to be Amy's video, right? And maybe in her video, she's talking about like the art of the fan in Regency romance, right? And she's going to tell you all about that. I would need to watch that video because I don't know anything about it. But I do know that this is a very flirtatious way to hold a fan. So maybe she's going to go into something like that. So seeing this, I know that I need a background that's going to be eye-catching. I know that I'm going to need a background that fits my brand also. So I'm going to go into photos, and I'm going to search for flowers and just see what comes up. So another thing that I like to do is just try a billion things. So if I see something I like I love these flowers, if I drop them in there, I love the picture, but you see that Amy kind of gets like lost in those. So maybe that background is not the best for me. I can go with something like this, really like the way that looks. Again, Amy gets a little lost in it. I can move her over to the middle, but now I don't really have a place to put my text, right? So this is it's a process, right? And so as someone who's going to be creating thumbnails for yourself, you want to get in here and you really want to play around with stuff, and you want to ask yourself, like, just because this picture is pretty doesn't mean that it's the best thing for my channel, right? So I know that maybe I need something that is more conducive to having that face at the forefront and text, and then it's just very supplemental content in the background. So maybe something like this would be nice, right? Like, okay, we've got the flowers in the background, they're not super taking over, and I can drop some text right here, like that will work. Or something like, oh, there we go, something like this, right? Like I can move Amy over, the flowers are still back there, and I've got a bunch of room over here to put my text. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know if that doesn't make sense. I love beautiful pictures. I love using lots of awesome like floral stuff, but sometimes it gets lost. So you just really need to play around with a bunch of stuff until you find the perfect thing. So this is again how you go down the rabbit hole. You can really get lost in some of this stuff, but this one looked pretty good to me. So I'm gonna have Amy right there. I've got my flowers in the back, and now I want to add some text over here. So I go over to my toolbar on my left hand side and I find text, and I'm going to add a heading. Again, I will, mention that whether you're adding a heading, a subheading, or a little body of text, it doesn't matter as long as you get text in the thumbnail. So another thing I want to add is that sometimes text doesn't work out when you're talking about like social media posts or Facebook ads or something like that. But when we're talking thumbnails, text is so important. You don't want a bunch of text. You just want to be able to put the title of the video in the thumbnail really big, so when people are scrolling really, really quickly, they can see, they can read it, and if they're interested, they're going to watch the video, right? So I'm going to use this. I'm going to say the art of the fan in Regency romance. Looks good to me. So again, this was the default heading. I want to make this a little more fun, right? So I'm going to maybe find a different font. I can scroll for days, I'm sure, but because we're talking romance, I'm going to go for something with a little more script to it. So if I search the word script, it's going to give me all of like the fonts that have the word script in it or are written in like sort of calligraphy, right? I can also search for calligraphy. You guys, I spelled that right on the first try. Pretty proud of myself. Pony Club, right? Like this is very, I don't know, this seems like it fits with what we're seeing here in this image. But another thing I want to mention is that this text isn't taking up as much room as I needed to take up. So I'm actually going to squeeze this a little further in. I'm going to make it bigger and move it right there. That is a good thumbnail, if I do say so myself. Another thing we can do with this text is give it that little shadow effect by hitting my effects up here. I can give that a shadow, maybe not like a black one, but maybe I can go with like a pink or something to match those flowers. Kind of ties in that whole color scheme there. Of course, that was kind of a default pink, but if I wanted to play with that, maybe make it a little brighter, a little darker. Another thing in these effects, so I hit the shadow, right? I can play with my offset. Right now it's going to the kind of the bottom right. I hope you guys see what I'm talking about, like that pink shadow behind the words. Yes, I did know that you were talking about the language of the fan, Amy, just barely. But the offset, right, we can play around with the offset. I can move it even further back. I can change the direction, so I can have it go to the top right instead of the bottom left. There's lots of different options that you can play with within the effect. And then, of course, my favorite thing to play with is the transparency. So right now the transparency is actually at like 40%, but I can make it darker. But you see when I do that, because we're using black text and then we have a really dark and like 100% transparency like in the back, it makes it harder to read instead of easier. So we want to make sure that we have the right type of transparency back there, and that will depend on the colors that you're using. But again, I'll repeat, you've just got to get in here and play around with some of this stuff and just know, here's your undo button. It's right here. It's your friend. If you mess something up, if something gets, off, or you mess up a template or whatever, just hit that undo button until it's back the way you want it, and you then play around from there. So don't be scared of it. But this would be something that we could put out as a thumbnail on social media, and people would potentially, yes, Control Z works in Canva. Oh, I love the shortcuts, you guys. And if you don't use keyboard shortcuts, I mean, I get it. Like sometimes they're confusing, especially if you're like brand new to something like this. But yes, if you hit Control Z, or our Mac users, it's Command Z, that is also undo. But we can, that's a whole other class, is keyboard shortcuts. And I think Megan should have to teach that class. So I'm going to take that up with Amy later. So here's a good thumbnail. And then of course, if we want to give it a title, we can call it Amy's Class. Love it. And then we'd hit that download button. We want to make sure that it's in a PNG or JPEG format. I like the PNG, it's a higher quality file, and then we'd hit that download button. So when we hit that download button, let me just go ahead and do it, and I want to walk you through the process of how this actually looks on YouTube. So saved our design. Oh, there's a dog. Happy National Dog Day, everybody. If you're showing up for some Canva tutorials, but you have an awesome picture of your dog, feel free to drop those in the comments because I would love to look at them. So we've downloaded our thumbnail. If we go back over here to our YouTube channel, I'm going to go to my channel, and I believe I've got a draft somewhere, hopefully. If I don't, not a big deal. My videos. Here we go. We're into the studio. So the Creator Studio is where it's going to take you when you're actually uploading videos. So I've already uploaded this Amy book talk romance video, and so assuming that it was made sense with the thumbnail, we're just going to pretend for now. But if I go in and I hit the details, it's going to give me the option, right? So I'm going to call this, the art of the fan in a Regency romance. And then you would fill in a description of what that is. Now I want you to see this real quick. This is what we're talking about. It says thumbnail, right? It gives you 3 options. It gives me this image of 2 men talking. Does that have anything to do with the art of the fan? Absolutely not, right? So this is not a great thumbnail for the content that we're going to be talking about. So then we'd move on, they give us a couple more options. So we've got a couple options of screenshots of Amy talking about the book. Still fine, these would be eye-catching enough for somebody to recognize Amy or see the logo on her shirt and say, oh, Romance GenreCon, what a great thing. And they may watch this. However, because this was so easy to make, you guys, all we have to do is hit that upload thumbnail. And we have to find it in our downloads. There it is. Amy's class. We're going to upload it. And now this is what people will see when they're scrolling through the libraries of all of our videos, right? So when they see that, wouldn't you much rather click on something that looks like this than this or this? The answer is probably yes. And this, took us, less than 5 minutes to make something like this. So again, really, really important to create these thumbnails for your YouTube channel, especially if you're putting out lots of videos, if you're putting out how-to videos, if you're trying to be, a thought leader in your industry. Doing something like this gives you extra credibility because people will see that you're putting extra effort into your videos, right? There doesn't have to be video editing involved. There doesn't have to be like fancy lights and equipment. But if there's a thumbnail, all of a sudden it's like, oh, this person knows what they're talking about because they took one extra step to making sure that my experience is good with this video. So I hope that makes sense. Let's jump back into Canva and we'll talk about, let's make something else. So I'm just going to add a page within here. Let's go back to my template. So we started this one completely blank because I like to do that sometimes. But let's talk about adding a template in there and playing around with some of that. So I'm going to, let's say Kelly, our business reference librarian, did a YouTube video on how to use one of our databases. So that would be one that we, would want to put out there. But you know what is not sexy? A screenshot of a database, ever. And so if we did a YouTube video like that, more than likely YouTube is going to give us 3 different shots of a screenshot of a database. Nobody wants to look at that. So these are things that we really need to incorporate when we're thinking about, what do people want to look at? And so there was one in here I really liked. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, here we go. So go through the templates, look at all the different ones in here. Again, you might get lost in them a little bit, but I played around with some, and you've always got your recently used up here at the top. So if you are looking to be consistent in what your thumbnails look like, you can always find them up there. But this one I really liked because you've got a picture over here that you can drop your own image in there. And then you also have this background image as well. And then of course you have your text. So let's say that I wanted to use this template to talk about databases with Kelly. So again, I'm going to go to my uploads, and I might have to scroll for a little bit here, but we will find our image of Kelly doing a one-on-one. And if you see an awesome picture that you like, just shout it out because there's a lot of good pictures in here. Here we go. All right, so Kelly having a one-on-one with our good pal Marisa. This was pre-pandemic, so masks were not required at this time, so nobody freak out about that. So we can drop that in there. Let me show you how I did that. So I'm going to grab that picture and I'm going to move it over. Ooh, my finger slipped. And I'm going to put that cursor right at the edge of where that image is. And I'm just going to drop it in there. See how it just dropped right in there perfectly. So, however, Kelly's completely cut off from this. So I'm going to double click and it's going to give me the option to crop that photo, right? So I'm going to move Kelly over so we can actually see him. We can see Marisa, and I'm going to hit this done button. Boom. It's done. We're good. The next thing I want to do is change out this background. So we're not at the beach. We're in a library, right? Or maybe we can talk about research, right? Like maybe this is a research database. So I'm going to go into my photos and let's do a search for research and see if we like anything here. Something like this may look good because it's not too distracting there in the back. You know, we can do something like this. Don't love this because the word research is completely covered up by our title here, and the next word that you're able to see is nuclear weapons. So probably not a good one. We can drop something like this over there. His head gets cut off. So again, this is a trial and error process. Another thing we could do is, because we're with the library, we could just type in books and use some books as the background. I think that looks pretty good. Of course, we want to make sure that our picture of Kelly and Marisa is popping. And right now with the books next to it, like they're kind of on the same level. So what I want to do is hit that background, and you can tell that it's selected just barely because there's this teal blue line surrounding it. But I'm going to click on that and I'm going to go into adjust, and I can adjust the brightness. I can make it really bright. I can have the contrast go out. I can, you know, make it almost like a black and white or grayscale. There's so much you can do with that adjust button. I'm going to reset it and show you what else we could do. In case you don't want to deal with having to go through all of these different variables for this image, you can also hit filter, and it gives you some predetermined filters. So if you just wanted to gray it out, boom, we can gray it out just like that. That being said, this image could actually use a little brightness, I think. So if I click on that, I'm going to go to my adjust, and I'm just going to brighten that image up a little bit. We can maybe give it a little more saturation. Let's talk some contrast. I think that looks a lot better, you guys. Let's see the undo button. And there we go. Looks a little better. All right, so we've brightened this image up. We've grayscaled the background. Now we need to swap out our text. Demographics. Oh, dang, I was on a roll. Demographics now with Kelly. Ooh, Kelly. All right, so see what happened when I typed demographics now? That box jumped up bigger. It's because these things are what we call grouped. And if I ungroup those, now I can individually move all of these pieces separately. So all I really want to do is make this like a little smaller so it fits on one line. And then I'm going to move this box back down. So now it's kind of small again. It gives us the title and it tells me exactly what we're going to be talking about. Of course, this teal is not a Square One brand color, so I want to make sure that I hit my Square One color. And then while this looks like black, again, it's not black. It's color code 1428825, but we know that true black is 0000000. So I'm going to click that true black, and all of a sudden, here's a thumbnail that then we could use for Kelly's YouTube video on how to use demographics now. So that is how you would use a template. I also want to go over something that I learned a little earlier today, you guys. It like blew my mind a little bit. So, and if you've used Canva before and you already knew about this, like let me know in the comments, because I like audibly like had a reaction to it, and it was pretty wild. So anyway, I'm going to go into my templates, and I'm going to, just so I can show you what I'm talking about, I'm going to use this template because it's got a lot of colors in it. So let's say you find a template that you really like, And let's say that you've already set up your brand, your colors, right? We know that we've got our Square One colors, our Food Ed colors, our Business of Food Trucks colors, our Mid-Continent colors. But this doesn't fit any of those, right? So what we can do is, once we're situated on this page, we can see page 3 right here. If we scroll down here to styles, if you can't find styles, you're going to need to come down here to the more icon and then just select styles. But then it's going to pop up on your left hand side right here. Watch what happens when I select Square One. Boom. It like pre-branded this image without me having to change anything, right? Okay, but maybe because this is 12 easy cilantro recipes, this isn't a Square One video. It's actually a Food Ed video. Boom. It's hit my Food Ed colors. But maybe I don't really like this particular version of these colors. So what do? I just hit it again. See this shuffle icon? I'm going to shuffle it. Oh, that one's nice. Let's hit it again. Let's hit it again. Let's hit it again. And find it, find something until you like it, right? Like, I think this looks good. But it's going to play around with all of your brand colors until you find a template that you like. And then all we have to do, right, is swap out the image, swap out the text. You're ready to go. So that's how easy it is, you guys. Like, we should all be making thumbnails when it comes to our YouTube videos and Facebook videos. So I know that this is specifically for YouTube, but you can use thumbnails in Facebook as well. When you upload those videos, you give it a name, you get a description, and you've got the option to give it a thumbnail as well. So make sure you're doing that. Super easy in Canva. Let's make one more. Let's go to our templates. Let's look at one that we've done in the past. All right, yes, the audible reaction. Megan heard it. It like disrupted a meeting. It was really kind of embarrassing. Let's see. So let's use something like this. I like this one because I like when there are cartoons and also fun images. So we're going to play around with this a little bit. And because there's lots of tools within Canva that I think I've probably done a really bad job of highlighting, so I'm trying to do a little better about that. But this is not a picture of me, and this person is eating pizza. And listen, like, I don't know much about tapas, but I know that pizzas are not like super one of them. So whoever created this, I don't know. Anyway, so I'm gonna get rid of this dude, but I actually like that circle behind him. It's less of a circle, more like a blob. But let's have this video be, let's say I did a YouTube video that was called 3 Things to Stop Doing on Social Media. So let's break that down for a minute. If anybody read something like 3 Things to Stop Doing on Social Media, you're really, you're giving them like this like insightful, like, oh no, like what am I doing and what should I stop, right? So that title in itself is going to get people to click. However, we need to make an eye-popping, attention-grabbing thumbnail so that when they see it, they're like, I can't miss this. This is going to be so good, because I don't want to be doing something I'm not supposed to be doing on social media, right? So let's go with that. First thing I'm going to want to do with that is, we can go to our styles. Let's do it some Square One colors. I love it. And let's change out our text here. And let's do 3 things to stop doing on social media. All right, so first thing that we notice is that this text is too big to fit on that black background, and I don't necessarily need this text down here, so I'm just going to delete it. So I've got options, right? I can move this around, I can try to make it fit. I can see that it's not going to do that. One option is to, just make this text smaller. Let's see what it looks like at 80. Still not great. Another thing I can do is grab my little tab over here on the edge of this text, and I can move it in, and it's gonna squeeze things a little tighter. This isn't bad. I want to show you another example of what you can do. Give yourself lots of room to work, and I'm going to manually put in enters 3 things to stop doing on social media. All right, this looks good to me. I can drop it down into this bottom corner, and you see how it fits perfectly. It kind of slants along with that slant in the background. Now, even if it was a little larger than that black background, I can shrink it down, I can make it bigger. You've got creative freedom to do whatever you need to do here. So this might be something that would really work as a thumbnail. Now we've got some blank space up here, but I'll deal with that in just a moment. Let's worry about this picture, because this picture has nothing to do with social media at all. So I'm going to go into my photos, I'm going to type in social media. And as I was playing around with this earlier, I really liked this one because it, showed me lots of fun little icons. Now, when I see something like this, I see reds, I see brightness. It's not really the Squirrel One brand, right? We want to make sure that everything we're putting out is branded the way it needs to be branded. For example, let's go back to our friend here. There's lots and lots of blues and blacks and whites and grays, right? Like almost everything this person does is branded to her logo and her brand colors, right? So we want to make sure that we're doing the same thing. And this image isn't that. So we've got a couple options. Option one, we can go through and we can adjust, and we can go into this tint and we can give it a blue tint. See, that actually helps a little bit. It was a little brighter, we gave it a blue tint. We can do the saturation, we can knock it down a little bit, and now it has like a blue tint to it instead of that red tint. Or let's reset it. Let's go back to our photos. If I scroll down a little bit, I see a really similar image that's already kind of blue. I can just drop that one in there instead. So don't think that you're stuck with the images that you've been given, right? Don't think that you've been, like sequestered into like this one tiny little corner. Branch out. If you find an image that you really like, but it's not really matching with your brand, go through and adjust it to make it fit your brand. And I mean, the easiest thing to do to make anything fit your brand is to go into this filter and make it black and white, right? Black and white goes with everything. So those are things that we can do. But let's use our blue image here. Let's address the blank space here. So something I think is always really fun is to, instead of listing 3 things, let's take out the 3, and instead let's go into our elements. And let's type in 3. And let's hit graphics. It's going to give me those little cartoons, and it's going to give me a bunch of different options for 3, right? All I have to do is select one of these, swap out my colors, and make it blue, give it a white background. Let's make it a little smaller, pop it over here, a little smaller. Boom. 3 things to stop doing on social media. Okay, that's not bad. I don't super love the way it looks, so let's delete that one and try another one. Let's try something like this. It has a little more, dimensions, I guess. So let's swap out the blue for our Square One blue. Let's swap out the red for a white, and this black for our white so we can see it a little better. All right, make it smaller, move it over. 3 things to stop doing on social media. 3 things. It pops more, right? Like people watching this can be like, this video is probably not too long because they're only telling me 3 things to stop doing on social media, and maybe I'm doing one of these things and I need to stop, right? So they're going to watch this video not because just of the title, not because of the content itself, but because they see something like this and they're like, well, if someone is telling me what to do on social media and they had the tenacity to go out and build something like this, they're probably really smart about this industry, right? So again, it's giving validation to what you're already doing. The last thing I want to show you before we kind of get off here, and of course, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop those in the comments. Stephanie, I appreciate you tagging some people to watch the replay. That being said, I want to show you one of these other cool things that we can do on the side here. So if you go to this more, there's lots of apps and integrations that Canva has. So if you have a Bitmoji, and y'all know I have a Bitmoji, if we select that, it's going to ask you to log in, and now you've got your little cartoon of you, right, that you can drop in your designs. And so if I search for stop, all right, I've got lots of options here. I can have me holding a little stop sign, and I'm going to drop the little me in this little box over here, or this little blob where our other cartoon guy was. All right, that looks pretty good. Maybe it's not the best one. Let's look at this one. This one might be kind of fun. I can say stop. All right. What would that look like with a black blob instead of a blue blob? Let's check it out. Kind of looks like a dark hole. White's fine. You know, I think I prefer the blue. But just think about some of these things, right? Let's get rid of this one. Please stop. This actually has some blue branding on it anyway. That is another thing to consider when you're using these Bitmojis, is that you can't change the color of them because they're third party, like, created. But we can, do something like this. But if you have a Bitmoji and you're obsessed with it, like I'm obsessed with mine, then you can add that in as an integration into Canva, and then you can start using it in your designs. And if you've watched my Canva classes before, my Instagram classes, you know that when I'm creating these covers, I use that, little cartoon image of me all the time. Sometimes because I'm feeling really self-conscious and I don't want to put like my real face on there, but like this early skinny, non-blemished, perky version of me looks awesome. So I'm gonna go with that. Not to say you need to do that all the time, or if that's not something that is for you, then that's cool as well. But play around with it, see if you like any of it. I like this one. This one's cool. Stop doing stuff on social media. Gives it some dimension there. Anyway, so 3 things to stop doing on social media. Demographics Now with Kelly, The Art of the Fan, and Regency Romance. All of these thumbnails would be great to put out on your YouTube channel, on your Facebook page as well. Play around with Canva. I can't stress it enough. The more you get into Canva and the more you try new things and just mess up, go in here and do something and completely mess up and fail, because you're going to learn more from that than you would from creating something perfectly every time, or even going into a template and just changing the bare minimum. I mean, you're going to get great looking stuff because all the designers work really hard on some of this stuff, but get in there and really make something your own. I know you guys are creative. If you weren't creative, you wouldn't be trying to learn Canva in the first place. So that being said, please let me know if you have any questions in regards to thumbnails or to YouTube or to social media or to Canva. I would love to answer those for you. If you have specific questions about how to do it for your business, please reach out to me. I would love to have a one-on-one. We can sit down, we can do it over Zoom, we can chat, we can share screens, and we can create something together. And if you could, we've got an awesome survey for you to fill out. You guys know that we can't put on these classes and all these fun courses without your feedback. So please fill out that survey. All 4 of you watching, one of them's Megan, one of them's Amy. There's 2 more people watching, and I want to know who you guys are. So if you haven't introduced yourself in the comments, Kristen, I see Kristen. But please, if you haven't introduced yourself in the comments, please do that for me. Please fill out the survey. Please get on Canva and play around with it. And until then, I'll see you guys next week. We are talking about YouTube icons. So those little logos, and dang, they're kind of tricky. So I'll see you guys next week on Thursday. We're going to continue to talk about YouTube and about Canva, and we're going to get even more creative. I will see you guys next week. Bye.